Well, welcome back to the Pit Stop Ranch. If you remember, in a real recent episode, we made a patch panel. And this episode, we're going to make the patch for the inner structure that holds it. And you see, these two go together like this, and with some spot welds are attached together. But before the final attachment occurs, thusly. However, before we do that, this piece will get welded in, and then that piece will get holes put in it, and it'll then get welded to the flanges like it's supposed to. And some schmutz, no one will ever know the difference. Okay, as always, your first step is to go ahead and come up with a general plan or design for the piece we're going to be making out of steel. So here I am taking some basic measurements here, there, everywhere else to get the main shape or the primary shape of the piece of steel. We'll be cutting out to make this intersection that's been rotted away. It's got two 90-degree flanges and a curve to it and a curved flange. So next, transfer my measurements to a piece of scrap steel. This is a section of the new floor we did not use, we made earlier, or bought and installed earlier. Trimmed it up. That's what it looks like, nice and flat. Fancy, right? Bent it up, and after bending it up, now I'm busy trying to figure out the radius I need to put onto the one edge there. Do some little cutting, test fitting, trimming, test fit, trim some more, do it a bunch of times until I'm happy. Once I'm happy with it, I had to create the curved profile on the bottom. And so I grabbed the one flange and put it in the shrinker to get the curvature we needed, as you can see there. Test fit again. There's a lot of test fitting in all of this, and it does not end. And here we're pretty happy with the way it's looking, the way it's fitting. It's touching, all the areas are touching where it needs to. So the next step is to make that curved flange, or not the curved flange, but the radius, that flange that goes along that radius there. So I figure out how long it is, cut it, make it cut another little piece from scrap, and cue it up for the weld montage. Of course, the initial tack. Stuff like this I find using the TIG welder to be rather useful, rather helpful. And if you eagle-eyed viewers out there will notice I'm using just MIG filler rod. I find for doing the thin stuff that actually is just the right size for the for welding this thin stuff around. Of course, when doing TIG, it's all about how you hold it, and work holding and tool holding, getting an ergonomic position. Of course, with my eyes, I have to get close. Anyways, of course, once it's welded and you're happy with the welds, then it's clean it up using an electric filer here. Next step, of course, is to cut out all the crap, all the junk that is no good. We have to cut it back to good metal so that we can weld to it. And here's a bunch of the garbage I just cut out. Isn't that lovely? Get rid of that. Throw it in the scrap bin, and here's a new piece. First test fit. Now, one thing you do is you make the piece too big and you cut not enough out, so that you can. It's always nicer to trim just a little bit more than try to make up the gap. That said, it doesn't mean you don't make the gap too big and you end up sitting there with the MIG and busy chasing gaps and burn throughs and everything else. But you know, joy of trying to join two pieces of metal together. Okay, and the first tack, I have the piece held in position, of course, with a strong magnet to get the alignment good. We're fortunate that my big head isn't totally in the way, just partially. And now, once we have several tacks in place, the new montage of welding occurs, where we just go around and fill up holes and try not to burn too much of the other stuff away and fill it in. It's spot, spot, spot all the way around, yet again. You know, the usual. So once I'm happy with everything's position, then go ahead and do the rapid spots, overlapping each other until you get a nice solid steady weld all the way through, and you're happy with it. Once we're done with the inner structure, we can now attach the patch panel that we had already done. One solid tack, starting at the corner and then working our way around one tack at a time, spacing about ½ inch apart. Now, no matter what, the panel isn't going to perfectly line up with the new piece, even if you did a really good job making it, or you bought a high quality reproduction piece. So you end up, as you go along, you end up tamping it and bumping it and moving it until everything is where you need. And then you go through another welding montage at triple speed. And of course, once the welding is done, it is time to start grinding, because grinding makes you the welder you're not. Of course, it is a fine balancing act between removing the proud welds without thinning anything out and making it weak, and then you end up hopefully with a product that you're happy with. And of course, welding and especially grinding, you end up with high spots, low spots, waves, and so forth. So, though, you know, all along the plan is to put all sorts of body filler in here to make it perfect, just like there. You inevitably end up, you want to do some metal work to minimize how much body work, how much filler you have to put in. And once you've built up the body filler nice and thick, it's time to go after it with a sander and shape it into something approaching what you want it to be. Alright, as you can see, we have the patch I made a few weeks ago welded in. And obviously, in order to weld that in, the inner structure that I had made is also welded in, fixing the inner structure rust that's inside here. It's been coated with the fiber reinforced body filler and more or less shaped. Next step is to go ahead and put a layer of a skim coat on it to fill in all the little voids that come with the angel hair filler, and then sand it off nice and perfect and flush and make it pretty. I hope you got to see by breaking it up into 2 videos, we were able to cover in detail how such a process is done. We have a little more rust repair to do on this. I'm probably going to go ahead and crash through that relatively quickly and just kind of give you a highlights reel on all that, since we've gone through it in detail. Anyway, remember, we are professionals, but not at this. And if you would please comment with any thoughts, suggestions, general criticisms, or attaboy if you're feeling generous. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bell so you know when our next views are, and of course, most important of all, share with your friends. And look forward to hearing from you and talking to you later, and till the next video, have a rustastic day.